So, if you haven't heard or you live under a rock, the Rockets just signed both Jalen and Alperen Sengun to long-term deals. This was something that was, has been talked about for the whole summer, leading up even from last season. Um, Personally, I did not think they were able to get it done. I thought this was going to extend into the year and go on into the summer of next year, where if the guys played good, the Rockets would have, did what they had to do. If not, then you start getting into those negotiations there. But apparently, Stone and both of their camps with Jalen and Shangoon thought that a better resolution would be to get a deal done, which I agree. I didn't really carry the way, but to me, if the Rockets were going to do what they did, this is what you need to do. And I'm saying that because what a deal that Stone got with both of these guys. It's not normal for a team to get a deal on one player, but to go for two players is just unprecedented. There's so much about the extension signings between Alperen and Jalen that is unique, that you got to give all the credit to Rafael Stone. I've been on his tail for the whole rebuild. This is by far the most significant and biggest win of him as a general manager, even more so than Ime Udoka, because this sets up the team for the next 5 to 6 7 years. This is definitely something that a lot of front offices in the NBA are going to be looking towards, and this comes after the market has been totally destroyed by the signings of the likes of Franz Wagner. Loves Franz Wagner, but Franz got a 5-year, $224 million contract, which is a rookie scale max. And to me, that set the bar for players like Jalen and Shangoon. Shangoon is better than Franz Wagner. I can confidently say that with no qualms. Jalen, I think to me, they're about the same level. So going into these talks, I'm assuming Jalen and Shangoon's teams were looking at the market and saying, look what other guys are getting. This is what we want. But somehow, some way, the Rockets were able to do it. So let's get to the details of this massive trade. I wrote it on a piece of paper. I am currently on the road right now for my real job, and this news came while I was on the airplane, so I didn't even know till I landed. It was crazy. Now I had to catch up. I had to record, but I stayed prepared. Brought my podcasting equipment. So we'll start off with Jaylen Green, 3 years, $106 million, which once again 3 years, and the 3 years is a 2+1, so it's a third year with a player option. It's very similar to Fred VanVleet's deal, because it's a 2+1. So essentially, after his first year, the second year, he's an expiring contract unless he opts in, which he most likely will. But in that second year in 2026, Jalen has the option. So if he plays this year, finishes out his rookie scale salary, he starts the first year on his new contract, which is going to be roughly around $33.5 million, and it escalates up each year. That is going to be in the 25-26 season. After that season is up, going into the summer of the 26-27 season, the Rockets can then work out a deal to potentially extend him and renegotiate that third year to be a longer contract, which could reach up to 4 years and $227 million. So basically, Jalen could play at this base annual average salary of $35 million a year, which is a steal, in my opinion. And then if he turns into the star we all hope he's going to turn into, 2 years from now, he could be looking at a roughly about $50-something million per year salary. Now, obviously, this only happens if the Rockets deem it necessary, because the great thing about the way his contract is kind of set up is that they have flexibility. There's a lot going on with his contract, and I'll get back to it. Okay, the details of Alperen Sengun's contract: 5 years, $185 million, a steal with a player option. So similar, it's a 4+1. Usually in NBA, players don't have player options on their rookie scale maxes. It's a straight 5-year deal with the whatever it is, you get it. That is what it is. It is what it is. Because at the end of the day, the reason the 5th year was brought in for the NBA is to entice players to want to stay. So this deal is a give and a take with the Rockets, right? It's a give and a take for both players with the player options, because the give is the Rockets are going to give up their ability to keep Sengun on that extra 5th year without his consent. And the reason that's important, if he is somebody that turns into a star, for him and his agency, they're going to say that on that 4th year, they want to renegotiate for a bigger salary where he would get a max contract. Whereas on the, for the player side, that gives them the player that flexibility. So if he likes where he's at, he's doing good, he gets to play, he can opt in. Now the Rockets, where they went off of this is that 185 million for Alperen Sengun. That is roughly almost $40 million less than the full max, which is 224 million for people in his class. You look at players that have gotten the max. Cade Cunningham, 5-year 224. Mobley, 5-year 224. Barnes, Scotty Barnes over in Toronto, 5-year 224, and Franz Wagner, 5-year 224. So between the two of them, between Jalen and Sengun, the Rockets are saving roughly $18 million annually by not maxing the both of them. And over a 3, 4, 5-year period, that's up close to $100 million in salary that you save. And you think about the implications for that for the entire roster. This is just crazy, just crazy. So for both of them, this is the first time since Luka and Trae Young are the only other players that both have team options on their rookie scale maxes for their extension max. Sengun got a max contract, right? He got a max in years, but he didn't get a max in money. So for a 5-year max, because there's two ways to talk about the max. You can get a max money and not max years. You can get max years and not max money. So he got max years without max money. He is the third player to get it with a player option. The other two were Luka and Trae, and Jalen also with the third-year player option also falls in that boat. Jalen did not get max money, neither did he get max years. Now, let's talk about this from who won from both camps between the players and the Rockets. We'll start with Jalen. So for Jaylen Green, you got to understand this is a player that was drafted with the number 2 overall pick in 2021. You look at historically players in his draft position that have performed, even showed a pulse of being a player in the NBA. Like for a player that's drafted top 5, not to get their money, they just have to be just horrible. Most of the times, if you show a pulse of any type of potential, it's a done deal. It's a done deal for teams to just give you the 5 for 224, whatever it is in the year that you're in. We all know Jalen struggled at parts during his year, but let's not pretend that he hasn't shown elite level highs in his game. He has shown, stretches of time where he played as a really, really great player in the league. But obviously, he still also had very low lows. And the name of the game in any job that you do is consistency, right? I don't give a damn what you are. If you my mailman and you're supposed to bring the mail at 5 o'clock every day, I need that mail at 5 o'clock every day, right? If you start, okay, you're going to bring it every day for a week, then all of a sudden you're out for another week, then you bring it back, then you're out for 2 weeks. I'm going to try to get you fired. I'm calling the office, hey, bro, I haven't got my mail. I'm expecting a check. So the thing, it don't matter what your job is. Whatever you do, what makes a good worker is not only the quality of the work that they do, is also consistency. And that is where Jalen has lacked. But with the level of play, the level of the highs of his highs, in my personal opinion, he still had an argument to get a full max contract. It is not based on how well you think he plays. It's not based on whether you like him or not. None of that is the case. It's all based on precedent in the market. The market with Franz Wagner signing that contract, and the precedent being the fact that he's a number 2 overall pick. He's averaged over 20 points in a season. He is pretty much one of the faces of the franchise. The circumstances that he was thrown in largely were not his fault, right? We see what he can become when he has surrounding vets. So for him to get the contract that he did, I think it really does say a lot about what he perceives himself as and what the Rockets see him as. To me, 2+1 says, from the Rockets' point, we're not fully sold on just exactly what you are right now, but we do like you and we are intrigued by what you can become. And from Jalen's side, he's saying that I agree in what you see from me, but I still want to bet on myself, and I think that I'm going to be able to prove it to you. So it's basically a win-win for both sides. But in the grand scheme, I think the Rockets won, because I used I told one of my friends in a group chat this. Here's an analogy you could think of. When the Washington Wizards were up to sign Bradley Beal to a max contract when he was due, this is not the rookie max, but his regular max, they, just like 96% of the NBA front offices, went ahead and signed him because they had no choice. And they had no choice because it's precedent. You get a player, he's been an all-star, even though he's not good, he hasn't been good in a couple of years, he's hurt all the time. But because we're a team that's on the come up, we're trying to get our star player, even though we know this is a terrible contract, we're going to give it to him because that's just what NBA teams do. In in order for them to keep the standard of what everybody else has done throughout the NBA, right? And that's what we see a lot of times with players that come with the profile of Jaylen Green, a player that they show flashes, but you're not really sure. Well, you know what most teams are going to do? They're going to bite the bullet and give him the full max. But for somehow, some way, for both parties to come to an agreement where the Rockets only gave him a 2+1, that is nuts. That is crazy. That is impressive by Rafael Stone. That does show the level of kind of personal relationship that you have to have, not only with the players, with their agency, their families, all that stuff, to be able to come to an agreement where that happens. But it is interesting because, in my opinion, on Jalen's side, from the player side, I think he could have pushed for more. But he must have seen something, self-assessment. Maybe his agency told him something, or he really, really, really believes in himself. Regardless, for the Rockets, to get him at roughly average, I know it starts off at lower and increases. If you average it out, it's about $35 million a year. That's a win. Huge win for the team. And so many implications about kind of where that goes. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. Okay, so second is Alperen Sengun's contract. Alperen Sengun drafted number 16 overall, same class as Jaylen Green, 2021 overall, 2021 draft class. Came in, has been improving every single season. I think most of us knew he was going to be a special player from pretty much from year one. Has met all the standards and exceeded expectations year in and year out. In my opinion, was a automatic full max, rookie max, 5-year, 224. But somehow, some way, the Rockets were able to negotiate 5 for 185, which is nuts. That's roughly 37 mil a year. It starts off at 34.5 mil, then escalates up. But if you average it out over the equal pieces, $37 million a year for a guy averaging 21, 9, and 5, one of the best players in this class, if not. There's an argument he's the best player in the 2021 draft class. And you look at the likes of some of the names I've named, Scotty Barnes, Franz Wagner, Evan Mobley, Cade Cunningham, great players. Great players, but to me, they're all in the same boat. They're all in the same boat, right? Potential, show this, show that. They're all in the same boat. And I wouldn't there's no player I just named with Cade, Mobley, Barnes, or Franz that I'm saying I feel confident that I sign my franchise over to this guy. None of them. None of them. They're not Luka or Ant or any of these upper echelon because they're all still on relatively bad team minus Mobley, and he is not a key part of why his team is good. He is an important piece, but if we were to compare Mobley on a team construct, he's basically like a Jabari for that team, right? He's a good defensive player, not really much on offense, needs to work on his rebounding. You expect a lot out of him. To me, he's a Jabari, right? Scotty Barnes is probably the closest thing. He's been an all-star already, but to me, a bit fluky. He was in the East. Doesn't really, he's good, but I don't know if he's like a centerpiece type of franchise player. I think he's a player that you pair with another more guardy, more offensively geared player where he could be that two-way kind of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown type of player, which still is a great player in the league. So I'm not going to take nothing away. Cade, to me, he has all the profile to be one of those guys. Hasn't done it. Doesn't impact winning. I don't give a damn what you say about, he's been hurt. Yeah, the teams have been bad. But if you're that guy, bro, if you're Cade Cunningham, there's no way you were playing on a team that has lost as much as the Pistons have and not impact winning, because you have to impact winning at some point. You put Luka, a rookie Luka, on that Pistons team, they're not losing as many games with Cade on there, right? You put, even Trae Young. Like there's players you just got to impact winning. I don't think he's done enough of that in his time. And Franz Wagner to me is the most egregious. I love Franz Wagner. I hate to do this. I hate it. Most egregious to me. There is no way that Franz Wagner is worth a full-scale max when the Orlando has to pay. They have to pay Paolo Banchero, and they gave Jalen Suggs a nice low contract too. I think it was like maybe 5 for 150 or 4 for 1, something like that. So all of that to say that for Sengun, getting him at 185, which is nuts, which is, like I said, roughly almost $40 million less than what he would be worth pretty much on the free market, is a crazy bargain. They did put the player option on the 5th year, which to me is what they gave him for that, because that allows him to get into basically he can get into a contract negotiations earlier, or if he wants to just go into free agency, he can just opt in and let that expire and go into free agency, or he can opt out. So he has flexibility on his end as a player. He's also making $37 million a year as a 16th pick of a guy that nobody really expected to be as good as he was in the NBA to this point in his career. So just amazing. And I think for the Sengun, obviously, I think the Rockets, they won that because I think his value is higher than that. But collectively, I mean, this is great for us, man. There's so many implications for this. So let's talk about those implications. So what type of one? There's a precedent being set here. We'll start off with there's two precedents. There's a precedent set for our core 6 or 7, however many it is, 8, 9, 10. It changes every day. Being set for them, and there's a precedent set for the NBA. And I'll start with the NBA first. The precedent being set in the NBA, usually, like I said, players that produce to the level of a Sengun or a Jaylen Green, they get the money that they get. This is actually negative for the league. If you look at it, not for the NBA, it's positive for the NBA, but if you look at it from the Players Association standpoint, this is a loss for players because the Rockets resetting the market to do this, to not only use the player option as a tool to satisfy lower contracts, but also getting guys that have played, to me, surpassing some of their value at this kind of salary. It resets the market because now it's a copycat league. Teams are going to use this as a tool. And the reason the Player Association and the NBAPA and the players in general are not going to like this is because they fought really, really, really hard to get those 50-year options for the for the designated extensions for those rookies that you want to pay the max to. That was something that you want to set in place, and you set a trend where players are actually getting their money automatically. And that's been the case for most rookies coming in, whether they live up to the hype of being like a Luka or an Ant or one of these generational rookies, or they're just a Franz Wagner. The money has been automatic. And now it's not. Because guess what? I know 2 guys that are better than you in Houston that didn't get that. So that's the market right now. And that's what the NBA is going to use going forward. So that's on the big scale. On the more micro scale for the Houston Rockets, what does this mean for Jabari and Tari Eason? Jabari Smith Jr. and Tari Eason. Think about that. What does this mean for Men Thompson? What does this mean for Reece Shepard? For Cam Whitmore? You think about that. Think about the standard that, for example, Alperen Sengun has set as a big man, averaging 21, 9, and 5, right? 21, 9, and 5, and a near all-star, 3rd place finish in the Most Improved Player of the Year awards. And he ends up with a 5-year, $185 million salary. So what does that say? That if you're on this Rockets team, what do you have to do to get the max? And on the player side, once again, if I'm the other agents, I'm kind of mad. But for the Rockets, this is beautiful, brother. You know why? Because now you could probably keep all the guys you want. We've already set the mark that to get this max, you damn near got to get an all-star appearance as a Rockets player. Like, to get a max, a deserving max that makes sense to the construct of the team, within the context of the team, you damn near got to be all-star, all-NBA. And I don't know if we have any players on our roster in this timeline of when they're going to be due, because Jabari and Tari are due next year. You got Amen and Cam after that. Then Reed is going to be 3 years from now. I don't know if there's anybody that fits that bill where they're going to get that. So that means less money, right? So you're looking at Jabari, maybe 25, 30 mil at the most. You're looking at Tari, 20 mil, 22. Amen Thompson, that's going to be interesting to see how he develops. Cam Whitmore, we're going to see how he develops. Reed, interesting. The funny thing about Jalen's contract is that the 3 years, even if he opts in, after his 3rd year is expired, Reed is up. So you could theoretically have 3 years of Jaylen Green. You get to assess whether he's a long-term fit. You hope that he's a superstar so you can give him that 50 mil. But if he doesn't deserve it, maybe you don't give him that. But at the end of the day, after that 3 years, you will have a definite value on him as a player and how he fits around the team. And then you can switch it out with Reed Shepard because he's going to be up to getting paid. Is Reed going to earn the max? Is Reed going to be an all-star level player? Is he going to average the numbers he needs to get it? These are the implications for this, because what Stone has done is essentially hard cap what it takes to get a max salary on the Houston Rockets as a rookie, to get that rookie scale max, you have to surpass Alperen Sengun. That is the marker. Alperen Sengun got a contract for 185 million 5 years for being close to All-Star. That is the standard of what you're going to get paid. Can you beat that? Amen Thompson, can you beat that Jabari Tari? Can you beat that Reed Shepard? That is going to be going forward. And to me, that is, it's honestly, it's great news. I know for the players, it's not what they want to hear, but this is great news because I've always said this: in order for you to build a contender, you have to get lucky. You think all the contenders, people get lucky. You got to get luck. There's a lot of luck involved in building teams. You think about Steph Curry's injury, which allowed them to not pay him a full max, which allowed them to be able to, pay other players, bring in other vets like Iggy. And then you get a draft pick that's late, like Draymond, that turns into something. Clay turns into a middle of the round pick that turns into something. And all of a sudden, you have this great young core that is basically cheap. And what does that allow you to do? Oh, bring a Kevin Durant. Bring a Kevin Durant. If Steph was on a full rookie scale max, Kevin Durant never exists, right? So these are the type of breaks that you need to really get lucky to win a championship. And the Rockets were able to get that. They were able to get that. Now, the basketball implications for this, I think this speaks, you got to look at it from the standpoint of money, right? So Sengun makes more money than Jaylen Green. What does that mean on the court? Does that mean they prioritize him more? You know what I mean? Does that mean that the Rockets are saying that we believe in Sengun long term and we're comfortable with giving him 5 years of our time and money, whereas Jaylen is only 2 + 1 or 3 years total? Does that show you what their insight is? I know there's been a lot of complaining about the direction of the team. Are they going towards a Jaylen? Are they going towards Sengun? My thing is always, why not both? Because they kind of, you can't have one without the other. Now, it doesn't have to be Sengun. You could bring another big man. It doesn't have to be Jaylen. You could bring another guard in or another ball handler. But at the end of the day, y'all know the story. As old as time, as old as basketball. If you got a big, you need a ball handler. They go hand in hand. It's like a quarterback and a receiver, right? You can't have one without the other. You could have the best quarterback in the world, Dan Marino. You could have Tom Brady. They need somebody to throw the ball to. They need somebody to throw the ball to. And most Hall of Fame quarterbacks, most of them got Hall of Fame receivers. It's a two-man game with this thing. So for the Rockets, does getting this behind them change how they approach their build? Now that you've invested money into both of these guys, does that change how you build this thing out? Does giving Sengun a 185 instead of 224 affect whether you still think he's the centerpiece? Or is it like we like you as a piece, but you may not be the piece? But who knows? These are all questions. I think it is significant that Jaylen makes less money than Sengun. So that's going to be something to watch out for. I don't think it's going to impact them. They both getting paid richly, nicely in the millions, but I think that does say something as far as with the value that they trust that Alp is basically proven, and there's really nothing that's controversial about that. He's proven that he is more reliable than Jaylen. I think Jaylen has the upside to make more money in the long term if he does what he's supposed to do. If Jaylen comes out and balls out, and in 2 years he's up for a deal, and Jaylen's an all-star, all-NBA level guard, and he's averaging 26 and 5 good efficiency, he's one of the team leaders, all that, they're going to give him that 4-year deal that is going to be $227 million, where he's making 50-some million a year. So everything is on him for Jaylen to make right now. He got to do it. Everything is on him, right? It's still the same thing. Even this season, it's on him. Because if he's still struggling a year or two from now, that team option, the player option that he has in the third year, even if he exercises, he just becomes an expiring contract. And then you have guys that are waiting in the wings with Amen, Cam, and Reed that play that guard position. So it's just interesting all the way around. I think this is going to be significant for the Rockets for the next half decade. This is so impactful because this allows you to, at worst, if you wanted to, keep every single person on this roster. Every single person. And if the cap is for what Sengun is making, and we know that the cap is going to go up, and there maybe the money in aggregate, it ends up being like 2 years from now, a $35 million contract is the same as $25 million 2 years ago. We still understand the value of the contract, but if relatively the standard is what Sengun is getting for his performance for the rest of the players, then yeah, I think we just have a team just full of guys that are going to fill their roles, and I think that's a beautiful thing. At this point, all they could do to break this team up is to trade. Right? They would just trade them, package them to move them if they ever saw the opportunity to. Now I've heard the argument about this hurting their cap flexibility in 2025. If you guys look at the list of players in 2025, who are we really trying to sign? I'm not gonna lie. Look, I wrote down some of the top players. Kyrie Irving. Do we need Kyrie Irving on this team? No. LeBron James. He's damn near 60, so no. Brandon Ingram. So with that said, big news all the way around for the Rockets. You guys, I really want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about these trades? Let me know in the comments, right? Let me know in the comments. Did the Rockets overpay or underpay for Alperen Sengun? Did they overpay or underpay for Jaylen Green? Are you excited about the trade? Do you think it was a good trade, bad trade? Did the Rockets lose? Who won? Let me know. I want to hear from you guys. I know we've been talking about this for a long time. So let me know in the comments and in the chat. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you're new to the channel and want to keep seeing dope videos like this, hit the subscribe button. Keep rocking with the Chop Shop, and we're going to keep dropping that. Bye.
DJ Candlestick. It's the Chop Not Flop Show.